Hello, Mark Red Larson here with my wife, Cheryl Diane Larson, for the 201st episode of the Dreamcatcher podcast. And we decided to name it, what was it? Um,
Well, 201.
201, a Dreamcatcher Odyssey.
There
Um,
you go.
and
For all you movie buffs, it's a nod towards Hal in 2001.
2001 A Space Odyssey.
Hmm.
But yeah, because, dream catching life in itself is,
Definitely an Odyssey.
yeah, it is. It's very much, and it's probably been the most of an odyssey for us in the last year, probably specifically. I mean,
Well, when I had cancer, that was, I mean,
this has been worse than cancer, I think, don't you think?
it's been more unrelenting, which
Yeah.
is
I
kind of
mean,
hard to, it's surprising to
and
say.
they're two different things,
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
because I mean, the
Well, and,
cancer is bad because you had advanced cancer. So,
well, and, I was sick before that too with the stage 4 endometriosis, and that was
mhm,
miserable too. And then you've had health problems, and
nothing
you
like
know,
you.
it's just everything seems to have a cycle where you go through, and it's tough. It's really tough, and sometimes it's not
but
so
it
bad.
but it is different than we've ever been through. We've
Yeah,
really never struggled with money and the situations we've been in this past year.
I've
I
done
mean,
things I've never thought
yeah, I mean,
ever
we
thought.
have always, and I think most people, unless you've been through this, you kind of look down on people that are on the street that are having struggles. They can't pay their whatever it is.
Well, you automatically assume they have a drug problem
Yeah,
or they're stupid as far as the way they handle their
yeah,
money, and it only takes one thing, really,
yeah. And this has been
a series.
it's been unrelenting, but it has been what we have found how people treat you, and we have been treated very well,
Oh,
just because of
exceedingly well.
our beforehand.
Yeah,
But
we're
it has been something that people take back your power because these people have lost their power, and once you lose that power, your voice, it makes it very hard because people do, like we had done before, judge them probably not correctly, and we have been through that, so we know more. Hopefully, we definitely know more about it, and
Well, I the dignity thing is something that your
it's been
dignity. That's one of the first things that goes out the door.
it does. I mean, it does because you start, you can't basically you can't pay anything, and everybody's like, "Well, Mark, why don't you just go get another job?" And that's the thing that is really in this day and age. At one time, that would have been, but with the way the work market is now, unless you start your own business, and even then, you can't really. I mean, we know people that have five, six jobs that are barely making ends meet, and you work and you work and you get to the end of your life without any place to have retirement, or when you have problems with health. And that's what we have found is, people look down on you. It's like, well, just go ahead and get another job. You can, and then there's the time, there's the driving, there's the stuff you don't get done because you're working multiple jobs and you can't get out of that hole. And it's just something that people, it's not the way it used to be. This country is not the way it used to be. You could go get a job and make enough to pay, your rent or whatever. Now I don't know how people pay their mortgages and rent. I mean, I really don't. But we need to stop, and us included, looking down on those people on the street, because we were talking this morning. Medical thing. This country has good medical services, terrible medical program. I mean, I'm Affordable Care Act is a joke. It's criminal, and I know I've said that before, but it's so easy to get to being on the street because of a medical. You were talking about.
Well, I work for a lot of older people. I would guesstimate. I mean, I have a few that are younger, but I would guesstimate that my average age is probably 80, 81, 82 in that arena. And when you're that age, you tend to start losing spouses. And I have known several, unfortunately, women that have ended up with nothing. And they saved their entire life. They had their house paid off.
They
They
did
had
everything right.
farms to take, money,
Mm-hmm.
income from, or some other income from. And their husband gets sick and he spends every last time. Not that it was his choice, but he was ill and that was what happens.
But
And it's too commonplace. It
It
just
is.
is stunning to me how many women I've run into with my what I do that this is their story.
Mm-hmm. No,
Mm-mm.
and it doesn't have to be that. You could be young and have this happen
Oh
because,
heavens, yes.
and that's the thing about with medical insurance, it's a crapshoot what they're going to pay and not.
What they're gonna
Well, and
pay.
then when we got this thing, the Affordable Care Act, you could keep your doctor. Well, you haven't been able to keep, unless you want to go to the specific hospital, and then you don't know what it's going to charge, what they're going to pay, and then the bills continually come on and on and on and on for who knows how long. And another reason why people get onto the street, and we have to get people to be able to catch their dreams. We have to get that fixed, and I am willing to take my do my share of that. I'm not for sure what the answer is. I do know we need to look at the countries that are doing it right, and we talked about this is actually take two on this video or
It
this
was two, Randy.
podcast. Yeah, and it's just we have countries like Italy that Cheryl could get on within 90 days and have a lot better health care than she does here. And we have friends in Portugal, which were from Canada, who were very surprised because their son had actually had some medical expenses and were very surprised how he had great care and how little it cost. So why is it that in this country we don't? We always go to the bottom. Everything we do is at the bottom. Our education system is at the bottom, and I'm not knocking teachers because I feel sorry for them. The way the teachers are
Oh,
treated and what they have to put up with is wrong.
yeah.
And
Well,
but
unfortunately, everything is a business.
it is, and
And
it's
yes, I understand that, entities do need to make money, but I defy you to find a hospital that hasn't just finished building,
an addition,
is
a wing.
building currently, or is in plans for building, and
Mm-hmm.
it's nauseating actually. But to get back to the situations with people being on the street, I have been very grateful. People have given us things that have been they didn't know because we haven't really said, but they have helped us out. I have a friend who gives us eggs, and it has been a godsend. It really has. And we have a little pantry that is in our town that again is something that it does allow people to have some dignity. If they need some help, they can go and just kind of look and see if there's something they can use. And it's just like the little libraries. And they even have dog food and cat food and stuff for people who have pets. And that's another thing, you have to give up so many things that make life worth living. You can't have a pet if you're homeless. If you do,
And we,
how can you feed yourself? How can you feed a pet? And I know some of these women that I told you about earlier, they've all had like cats and dogs, and then they've had to give them up, and it's horrific. These poor women have lost their spouse, and then they have to lose what they consider their family. And we've had a situation in our family as well where she needed some help, but they wouldn't allow her to come in with her animals. And that I think is really sad because that is a real concern for people that, I really want this part of my family, and people do consider their animals family, to
yeah,
come with me and
yeah.
be with me. And not being able to do that, it just, and yes, there are so many other things to be concerned about eating and having clean water and having a safe place to sleep at night, not having to worry about being molested, for a lack
Mm.
of a better word. I, I just is horrific.
But we're talking about what we found out.
That's what I am
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah.
Some
I
of the
mean,
things we found out.
personally,
I have personally
yeah.
found out about some of these things that
Well,
I
they
didn't
have,
realize.
and it's just like don't look down on people because of
Oh, you just don't
we
know their
look down on
story.
the kids that
Yeah.
don't. Everybody does have a story, a backstory, and God, I'm going to get God in here because God is part of my life anymore. And he said this would be, because I would resonate with all this stuff having gone through it, and not to the extent some people go through, thankfully, um, because of the grace of God. But we do. I mean, why don't we have medical? Why don't we have like I don't know Sweden and some of those countries where people they have like a safety net? Like here, it is just down to if it doesn't make money, and plus Why are the costs of stuff so much more? What causes the cost of college to be so much? What cost, because when we went to college, it wasn't even close to what it is now. And it hasn't been that many decades ago. And medical costs. When you were born, it was at $300, and I wasn't probably much more than
My
that.
mom, before she passed, gave me a packet of things from my childhood. And one of the things was the bill for my hospital when I was born. She was there 7 days, and that was less than $300.
Yep.
And yes, granted, the things were, different then, but 7 days, 7 minutes.
Maybe even
I mean, I had
7 seconds.
shots that were,
Yep.
$10,000, $11,000, and
Yep. And I mean, it's just it's not they're not taking care of the people. It's a
it's a
business.
business.
They're just trying to get as much money out of the people as possible. And I'm not saying the doctors this way, but these drug companies have become ruthless. I mean, I just watch TV. It is continuous drug commercials, and that's wrong. It should not be on the. I'm sorry. It should be between you and your doctor. If there's a medicine he thinks you should be on, have a place, like the internet, or wherever where you can find out the information. But when it tells you to go talk to your doctor, you're turning that whole dynamics around. And if
Oh,
I were a
that's what they're
doctor,
hoping.
well, of course it is. If I were a doctor, I would not be happy about that
Oh, I
because
know
it's
they're
not the
not.
drug company's place to put that in your mind. And
Well, insurance companies do the same thing. They want you to pay for the more, less expensive generics. If I've known people that have needed to be on a certain drug because the other ones they don't tolerate, and the insurance won't pay because it's the higher expensive,
yeah,
form of the drug. And why do you think that Good RX is doing so well? That's one thing we've ran into as well. Mark has some appliances that he has to use on a daily basis, and we were doing it through the insurance.
twelve
We
hundred
weren't
dollars a month.
month, and we were getting like four, maybe $5 towards the deductible each month. That was never going to add up to anything. And a friend of ours told us about another company, and
No, we buy them direct.
that's what I'm saying. Another
Yeah.
company that we buy
Yeah.
them direct, at $200.
Yeah.
Now, come on, same
Yep. And
thing.
they're still making money on those.
Exactly.
So no, I'm just this
It's
country is
frustrating. It's
got
what it
to.
is.
We have to change. If people are going to be able to, this country was the best and still can be, but we have to stop playing these games with the money. It always comes down to money. Whether it's in your food, whether it's in your medicine, whether it's people if they're important on the street, if they're not, they're just disposable. You know, we have gotten so ruthless with money and just look at the mentality, the mindset. You're always in a hurry. You're always to the next job, to whatever. Then you have Sunday, which is Sunday Fun Day, and then you have 2 seconds, which you might be happy, and the rest of the 6 days of the week are evidently not fun. And so, why do we continue that in this country? Because I can tell you, when Cheryl and I were able to go to Italy last year, it's not that mindset. It's very family
They're
oriented
very laid
because they
back.
close from 5:30 to have the evening meal with their family, and they mean it. And it's kind of like we were maybe in the 50s and 60s, maybe 70s. But I know I've said that before. But we have to give people their power back, and the government, pretty much, federal government, has taken all our power away, and they don't do what we want anyway. The majority of the people that go to Washington, so we have to start getting the power back to the people on the medical, on the food, on everything, and that's one thing we have found out that you know, whatever, if you're not making money or it's going to cost, not going to happen. So it's just, I mean, look at how much.
Well, it's a dynamic that has been from the beginning of time, but I feel lately it has just shown up more that
It's
it's
terrible.
more, well, and for me, I feel that, corporations having the same rights as an individual really bothers me.
Me too. It's
I
completely
think
wrong.
that that's kind of been the beginnings of that, they can do things that an individual can do, and I don't really feel that's an appropriate.
Hmm.
In, I don't know. I'm not a politician by any stretch of the imagination. They kind of irritate me, quite frankly. But I, you know,
I think the state government are good.
Well,
But
people, and that's not to say that there aren't people that just bust their hump to help people when they're in a
yeah,
political arena. And I actually worked for a gentleman that was in the legislature, and this guy, he will give you the shirt off his back if it's necessary. But you go and be there for 40, 50 years, and you're not coming up with anything new. You're just enriching yourself. And I
that's what
find
they're all
that,
doing.
that yeah,
Yeah, they have all these people coming and handing them a little bit of money if they get this certain thing
well, and
passed.
that goes to the
And
corporation has the,
yep,
identity of a person. And
no, and
we just need to take care of one another. And I really would love for us to be able to start doing that again. And I'm not saying that there aren't people doing that, but how do we get to that point? I would really love to hear what people have to say. How can we
yeah,
take care of one another? Because we're not doing it. We're not
we're
doing it
not.
right.
If you get on the streets and everybody looks down on them, I can tell you right now, you could be there tomorrow. And in this country, they don't really have. There are people. Let me tell you, we have Pam people that have been awesome. But we have been very fortunate, blessed. But there are so many people out there, and I was talking to a gentleman the other day. How do you get off the street? You don't have a place to sleep, eat, drink, all that stuff.
Well,
You
just
dress for going
normal
to.
things like going to the
Well,
bathroom or brushing your teeth or taking a shower. And the first thing that happens when you do that, you start to smell, and then people don't want you
yeah,
anywhere near them. And it just is a snowball that just gets so large. And even if you don't have an issue mentally, or the issue with drugs or alcohol or any of the other addictions that can just send you spiraling, I quite frankly, just it's opened our eyes to some of the things that
yeah. And these people are
we
treated
just,
like second or third class citizens,
oh, well,
and we're all supposed to be created equal in this country, and we are not. And for one thing, when you have your citizens be in this situation, much easier to control them. Very much.
well, and regardless of the government, I feel that this is also my responsibility. I
I
feel like
agree.
I have not been, and I know there are certain things that when we get back on our feet, I will be doing that I haven't done currently, and it's just very humbling to,
It has been very
you know,
humbling having to do the
because
stuff we've had to do.
we in this country, and I think it's the puritanical beginnings that we have that, you know, if you're not successful and not doing things, it means that you aren't working. And
Yeah.
I defy you to find a single mother or father that isn't working 3 or 4 jobs and
Well,
then
they.
taking care of the kids and still not being able to
Oh, but
to
grinding gets you
uh,
to success. Always.
well, there is some validity to, or not
Doesn't
validity,
necessarily correlate one to the other.
legitimacy to the fact that you have to work to get someplace. But it should not be the dominant thing of your life. Your children should be your dominant thing if you're,
Should.
if you're a single parent.
And I'm not knocking the parents because most of the time the parents are trying to, most of the time, trying to
Well,
provide a home and food for them and the clothing.
your best laid plans. You can always look at us. I mean, we
Yes.
had all sorts of stuff in our portfolios, and
Yeah.
that went bye bye so quickly. It was just stunning, and we're still just reeling from all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And
But it shouldn't be, where and this grind and sacrifice only to a point. And I'm going to get down to what Joyce Meyer says. She said, if you're in a hurry and you're working hard, it's never God. She said, you work peacefully, and if you're in a hurry, she said, you know who it isn't. It isn't God. And I have found that because, for one thing, you can't hear God when you are on the go all the time or exhausted because you're trying to work 15 jobs to try and pay your $2,000 a month rent. In fact, in our small town, they're going to put low income apartments in, and they're going to start out at $1,000 a month, and that's low income.
Yeah, and
That's pretty high in Nebraska.
And that's Nebraska.
Yeah. I don't know who's going to pay that. I really don't. But
working at Dollar General for
you're
minimum
not,
wage, you're not.
Or not
You're not going to eat if you do.
Nope. But anyway, we have found that you lose your power, you lose who you are, your identity, especially in this country. We don't have like we did when we were younger, like they still have in Italy. We don't know if all parts, but where they still kind of come together. It's still family is very important there. And
Well, community is really important, and it goes to also the way that the towns are set up because they have a town square, and people go there and they have their cappuccino in the morning, and
they live life, good life.
well, we have Starbucks, but people are in the
Ugh,
drive-through,
yeah,
and that is a totally different thing.
yeah,
You
they're on their
know,
way to go
they're not
work
here
on their jobs.
to visit with their neighbor.
No,
They're, in
they're on the
fact,
go.
and a lot of times you don't even know your neighbor. It just makes me kind of sad and embarrassed at how I
Well,
am.
I have talked to many people, and we're becoming the laughing stock of the world because a lot of these countries they have the podcast guests from. It's like, why do you put up with it?
Yeah.
And I asked that too. And that with this podcast, anything I do in the future is going to make sure that it's going towards not putting up with this. We need to get the chemicals out of our food. We need to make sure that people don't have to work 24/7, and their retirement plan is death, which I know quite a few people, even in our local town, that's what they're doing, and that's not a retirement plan. That borders on hell, and we're better than that. We're much better than that. So um, we're looking for solutions. We're not, we're just what we found, and this is very humbling, and we have more say than some of the other people that are completely, on the street.
Well, we still have an acid in our house and
Uh,
that type of thing.
but
But I just feel like the thing that I've learned the most is that you need to take a step back if you're starting to judge someone and realize that
mm-hmm.
you probably, well, certainly actually don't know the whole story, and even if it is an addiction, that's an evil thing.
But
I've known people that have just tried so hard to get away from alcohol and get away from other things, and so yes, there is some culpability in that, but your brain gets rearranged when you do that kind of
but
stuff. But
majority of the people
people
don't have
judge.
the addiction.
No, a lot of people who
No,
are on the street have mental issues, have health
Cheryl,
issues, have
would we have it if we were on the street?
no. I probably have a mental issue if I was losing it.
No, I can understand that part, but
But
I
I'm
don't
just
agree
saying
with
that's
that.
the first place we go when we think about it.
Well, yeah, I would agree on that.
That's something that I've been taught basically is not the whole truth.
Yeah. No, basically what they tell you and what they want you to believe is at the best half truth. No, and just don't think because it happens to us or somebody else that it
It
can't
can't
happen to
happen to
you.
you.
Because in this country, it's set up for you to go that way. Because
Well, regardless, I was even living in the country. Like I was telling Mark this morning, you live long enough, everything happens to you.
pretty much.
It just things that you would never have thought would ever be part of your life and have been.
Well, and we're blessed. I mean, we're
Oh
drinking
yeah,
some tea. We have this technology.
we have the house, and the
Yes,
roof, and
and
the
we have
lights are on.
electricity,
We
and
ate lunch.
by the grace of God, we have all this. The people that have helped us, and thankfully, we want to be those people that help. Those
Yeah.
people. But basically, don't look down on somebody that's hard up or whatever, or is on the street or whatever, and don't think that they're lazy. Another thing that I triggers me is they say this present generation is lazy,
Oh Lord, no.
and they're not. I know they are amazing, and the reason they're not going to work for these jobs is because they don't pay enough money to pay the bills,
Well,
and
and
they know
they've
that.
seen what mom and dad have gone through, and they're like, I
Why
don't need
try? Why
any of
do it?
this. Yeah.
You live your life in working, and if that's what you want, go for it. But
Well, if it's your passion, you enjoy it, and that type of thing.
24/7.
Now, that if you enjoy your job, that's a different story.
Well,
But
totally different.
that's kind of a rare thing. I kind of feel.
But no, I just no, they aren't lazy, but the jobs nowadays, and I feel sorry for the business owners, like
Oh
what
heavens, yeah.
California does with their fast food people out there making a $20 minimum wage. That has to go through, and to so they stay open. But we don't seem to think that. We seem to think that they're evil. That these business owners are charging in this or exorbitant amounts, and I doubt they're making as much as you think they are.
Oh,
Yeah.
especially in food service. That's
Yeah.
a
Any
margin that's
business.
almost
Most businesses I know are on the
invisible.
very edge of not making it,
Mm.
and that's even here in Nebraska. Everybody very much is on the edge.
Just cutting back. Yeah.
And I heard that like they said, the trucks weren't selling because the United States population is basically broke, and it's because you can't work enough to get enough money to pay for those trucks or whatever, pay your rent or whatever. So I think we're getting off. We
On
need
the
to,
soapbox.
yeah, we're doing that again, and just don't look down on people because it can happen so easily to you. And don't think they're lazy because most of the time they're not. They just don't know what to do because
Or have tried everything they can think
yeah,
of, and
and they
it's not
ran out of
working.
time. They don't have enough time to work more jobs. So on that, but we're going to be a force on changing that. And right,
Well, I
yes,
want to help people, so we'll see
yeah,
what
we will
happens.
be because nothing changes if nothing changes. So
Yes.
on that, thank you for joining us on episode 201, and have a lot of guests coming up. Actually, I had 17 people yesterday wants that want to be on the podcast, so we'll have a lot of people coming up, and that's no, they weren't even local. I have quite a few local people, so keep checking back with the Dreamcatcher podcast, and thank you for checking us out and
And be
giving
kind.
yes, and be
I
kind.
guess that would be our big message
Yes,
today. Be
yes.
kind.
So anyway, take care.
Bye.